When pain becomes your teacher. At 42, I stood in front of the mirror flexing my arms. Once proud, now just remnants of my younger self. The reflection stared back, not with shame, but with confusion. I had trained all my life. I wasn't new to fitness. I wasn't lazy. And yet, my arms weren't growing. Worse, every time I tried to train biceps the traditional way, I felt pain shooting down my elbows like static electricity. The gym used to be my playground. Now, it felt like a battlefield. Every preacher curl, every barbell load, every ego lift was just another reminder that I wasn't 25 anymore. But let me take you back even further. When I was 28, my biceps peaked. I remember the pump. I remember the looks. I remember strangers coming up to me at the gym, asking what my secret was. Back then, it was heavy weights, low reps, and no warm-up. Efficiency, right? I thought so. By 35, tendinitis started whispering. At 37, it screamed. At 40, I couldn't hold a dumbbell without wincing. That's when I knew something had to change. Not just my workouts, but my mindset. And that's where this story begins. You see, building muscle after 40 isn't about proving anything to anyone else. It's about reclaiming your strength. Not just physical, but emotional. It's about training smarter, not harder. You've probably heard that before. But what I'm about to share is how I turned that cliche into a lifestyle and finally rebuilt my biceps with zero elbow pain. No surgery, no exotic supplements, no overhyped programs with shredded 22-year-olds screaming into the camera. Just 3 movements. 3 movements that reshaped my arms, reawakened my confidence, and reminded me why I fell in love with fitness in the first place. But before I get to those, I want you to understand what was really broken. It wasn't just my body. It was my belief system. I had spent decades thinking more weight meant more growth. That soreness was a sign of success. That workouts had to hurt to work. I couldn't have been more wrong. At 41, I sat with a mentor, an old strength coach who had trained Olympic athletes. He said something that changed everything for me. You're not training to break records anymore. You're training to avoid regret. That hit me like a truck. I realized I wasn't chasing bigger arms. I was chasing the man I used to be. But what I needed was to become the man I could still be. So, I went back to basics. I stopped looking for hacks. I stopped chasing PRs. I stopped listening to 20-somethings who never had a day of joint pain in their lives. And I started listening to my own body. That's when I met the hammer curl. Not the way you've seen it in gym memes, swinging around like a maniac, but the strict, controlled version. It was the first exercise in years that didn't hurt my elbows. It felt right, and it worked. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That's coming in chapter 2. For now, I want you to sit with this truth. Pain is not the enemy. It's feedback. And if you're over 40, it's your greatest teacher. The question is, are you finally ready to listen? The hammer that rebuilt my arms. I remember the first time I did a strict hammer curl after turning 40. No loud music, no crowd, just me, a dusty pair of 25-pound dumbbells, and a quiet promise I had made to myself. I'll do this right. No more shortcuts. The motion felt strange at first, not because it was new. I'd done hammer curls 1,000 times before, but because I was finally doing them with intention, controlled. Still, no swinging, no ego, and for the first time in years, I felt my arms working, without my elbows screaming for mercy. The truth about hammer curls that no one tells you. Most people think hammer curls are just a variation of the regular bicep curl. They're not. When performed correctly, they do 2 things that are gold for older lifters. 1, they target the brachialis, the deep muscle underneath the biceps. That, when developed, pushes your biceps up and gives your arms that full, thick look. 2, they protect your joints by keeping your wrists in a neutral position, which drastically reduces strain on the elbow tendons, especially the brachioradialis tendon, which is often the culprit behind golfer's elbow or medial tendinopathy. But here's the kicker. Form is everything. Step by step, the smart man's hammer curl. Start position. Stand tall with a shoulder-width stance. Slight bend in the knees. Core engaged, not just for looks, but for spinal safety. Grip. Hold the dumbbells at your sides. Palms facing in, thumbs pointing forward. Think of holding 2 heavy suitcases. Elbows. Pin them to your rib cage, like you're trying to crush a credit card under each arm. That's how strict you need to be. Lift. Slowly curl the dumbbells up to your shoulders, not to your neck, not above your head, just to your shoulders. Squeeze. At the top, pause. Contract your biceps and brachialis, like you're trying to crush a walnut in your elbow crease. Lower. Take a full 3 seconds to return to the starting position. This is where most people mess up. Don't let gravity do the work. Control the descent. I like to think of hammer curls as the gentleman's bicep exercise. It's not flashy. No one's going to applaud you for it. But it's elegant, efficient, pain-free, and devastatingly effective when done right. The science of simplicity. You know what surprises most guys over 40? It's not that we lose muscle faster. It's that we recover slower. Our connective tissue, tendons, ligaments, takes longer to heal. And hammer curls respect that biology. Instead of forcing your arms into unnatural positions. With supinated curls, palms up, hammer curls work with your structure, not against it. It's a small shift, with a big reward. In fact, one of my private coaching clients, David, 52, former Marine, had nearly given up on arm training due to chronic elbow inflammation. We swapped out all barbell curls for controlled hammer curls. 8 weeks later, pain-free, and his sleeves started to feel a little tighter. Not because we trained harder, but because we trained smarter. My protocol for real results. For beginners, or those rebuilding after injury, I always start with this progression. Week 1 to 2, 3 sets of 10 reps, with a light to moderate weight. No more than 50% of your true max. Week 3 to 4, add a 4th set, and increase time under tension. Slow the negative phase to 4 seconds. Week 5 onward, introduce alternating hammer curls, 1 arm at a time, for better core control and stricter form. You don't need to max out. You need to maximally connect. That means every rep counts. Every rep is felt. No distractions. No Instagram between sets. Just you and your body in conversation. When hammer curls became therapy, there was a day, about a year ago, when I had just finished a brutal week. Clients canceling, family stress piling up, my sleep shot to hell. I almost skipped the gym. Instead, I walked in, picked up those same dumbbells, and did 4 slow sets of hammer curls. No PRs, no burnout, just movement, just presence. And something shifted. I left the gym not just with a bicep pump, but with clarity and peace. That's what this chapter is really about. Yes, hammer curls build muscle. Yes, they're safer. But more than that, they're a gateway, a daily ritual that brings you back to yourself. 1 strict curl at a time. Reclaiming control, 1 arm at a time. They say strength is symmetrical. That balance equals power. But somewhere along the way, I realized that true control, both in the gym and in life, often begins by focusing on one side at a time. That's exactly what I discovered with the single-arm bicep curl. You see, when we're young, we get away with cheating form, using momentum, and chasing numbers. But as you get older, when joints stiffen, tendons tighten, and life throws more stress at you, the cost of poor mechanics becomes brutally real. In my late 30s, I started noticing small asymmetries. My left shoulder rolled forward. My right bicep looked fuller, stronger. My grip was uneven. And worst of all, when I curled with both hands at the same time, I barely noticed how my dominant side did all the work. It wasn't until I switched to alternating, single-arm curls that I started rebuilding balance. Not just in my arms, but in my mindset. Why 1-arm curls matter more after 40. Let me get technical for a moment. Because as much as I value simplicity, knowledge protects you. Here's what happens when you curl with both arms simultaneously. Your core wobbles. Your body starts to rock. Hello, swinging momentum. 1 arm usually compensates, robbing the other of true load. Now add a tired spine, tight hip flexors, and a weakened rotator cuff to that mix. All common issues for guys over 40. And you've got the perfect storm. For muscle imbalance and long-term injury, single-arm curls fix that. They force your brain to focus on one contraction at a time. They strengthen your grip, because you're holding the dumbbell tighter for balance. They improve postural awareness, as your opposite side works to stabilize your spine. And most importantly, they slow you down. And slowing down, that's where the magic happens. Form breakdown, the controlled single-arm curl. This isn't just about switching hands. This is about intentional movement. Here's how I teach it to my 45-plus clients. Posture first. Stand tall with your feet shoulder-width apart. Slight bend in the knees. Think rooted tree, not shaky scarecrow. Dumbbell grip. Palm facing up, but not loose. Squeeze the handle like you're trying to snap it. This lights up your forearms and activates stabilizers in your wrist and elbow. Elbow placement. Keep it locked to your side. Think of trying to keep a $100 bill between your elbow and rib cage. Don't drop it. Curl motion. Bring the dumbbell up in a smooth arc. Not straight up, not out to the side. Stop just before your forearm touches your bicep. Pause and squeeze. Hold for a full second at the top. Make that muscle contract, like your life depends on it. Lower slowly, at least 3 seconds down. Feel every inch of the descent. This eccentric phase is where muscle is truly built. Pro tip: count your tempo, not just your reps. I'd rather you do 8 reps with a 3:1:1 tempo. 3 seconds down, 1 second pause, 1 second up, then 15 half-assed curls. You forget tomorrow. My evolution with single-arm curls. At 43, I stopped trying to impress others at the gym. I was done lifting for attention. I started lifting for precision. I remember one session clearly. It was raining outside. I had just come from a client cancellation. I was frustrated. My energy was low. My mood was worse. I didn't even want to train. So I picked up one dumbbell. Just one. I planted my feet, rolled my shoulder blades down and back, and did one single-arm curl. Then another. And with each rep, I felt control returning. Not just to my muscles, but to my thoughts. That's what this movement gives you. Focus, control, the space to reconnect with the moment. Lessons from clients. Let me tell you about Joe, 47 years old, divorced, full-time job, 2 teenage daughters. He came to me with one simple goal. I want my girls to see me strong again. His first session? A disaster. He was swinging weights around, breathing like a freight train, and gritting through every curl, like it was a punishment. I took away the second dumbbell, told him to slow down, one arm at a time. For weeks later, his curls were clean, tight, powerful. More importantly, he walked taller. His shoulders sat back. His kids hugged him differently. Why? Because this wasn't just arm day. This was identity training. My protocol: one arm, one mission. Here's what I recommend to my 40-plus male clients. Phase 1, reintroduction. 3 sets of 12 reps, each arm. Focus on tempo, 3s down, 1 squeeze. A light to moderate weight, something you can curl for 15 with effort. Phase 2, grip focus. 4 sets of 10. Squeeze the dumbbell hard throughout each rep. Use fat grips or towel wraps to challenge forearm strength. Phase 3, offset balance. Stand on one foot, if safe, or place opposite hand behind your back. Forces even more core engagement and postural awareness. You're not just training your biceps. You're training integrity, discipline, precision, one side at a time. A final thought before we move on. The world will keep pulling you in every direction. Work, family, responsibilities. But in the quiet of a single-arm curl, there's stillness, there's clarity, there's strength. Not the kind you brag about, but the kind you feel when no one's watching. And that is the kind of strength that lasts beyond 40. 21s, the burn that rebuilt my confidence. I used to think intensity meant pain, that the guy who walked out of the gym, barely able to lift his arms, was the guy who won. But after 40, intensity changed its face. It wasn't about breaking myself anymore. It was about awakening the muscle. And nothing, and I mean nothing, reignited my arms like 21s. I first heard about this technique when I was 19. Some old-school bodybuilder at a local gym grunted his way through 21 reps and said, "This is where boys become men." Back then, I thought it was just macho talk. But at 44, standing in my garage gym, with nothing but a pair of 15-pound dumbbells and a mirror that didn't lie, I gave 21s a second chance. And I'm so glad I did. What are 21s? 21s are simple in concept, but brutal in execution. You break one set into 3 distinct phases. 1. 7 partial reps from the bottom to halfway. 2. 7 partial reps from halfway to the top. 3. 7 full range of motion curls. That's one set. If you've done them properly, you don't need another. But of course, we don't stop at one set. The science of the burn. Partial reps aren't just a gimmick. They overload your muscles in specific ranges, increasing time under tension, which is one of the most critical factors in muscle hypertrophy, especially as we age. In our 20s, we can get away with explosive movements and still see growth. But after 40, It's the burn, not the brute, that drives adaptation. Here's why 21s are gold for guys like us. They minimize the need for heavy weights. They massively increase the pump and blood flow to the biceps. They mentally challenge you to stay focused through discomfort. They can be done anywhere: dumbbells, bands, cables, no excuses. My method: garage tested, elbow safe 21s. I call it the Smart Fire Protocol because it ignites growth without burning your joints. Setup: use dumbbells 40 to 50% lighter than your usual curl weight. Stand with a strong base, knees slightly bent, core engaged. Elbows pinned tight to your sides throughout. Phase 1, bottom half reps. Start with arms fully extended. Curl to midpoint, forearms parallel to the ground. Squeeze hard at the top of each partial. Phase 2, top half reps. Start at midpoint. Curl all the way to the shoulders. Pause. Contract. Hold for 1 second. Phase 3, full range reps. Start from full extension. Curl up, control the descent for 3 seconds. Exhale on the way up. Inhale on the way down. Rest 30 to 45 seconds. Then repeat. Most men over 40 do best with 3 to 5 sets. Why it worked when everything else didn't. In 2023, I hit a low point. Business was struggling. I was coaching others, but neglecting myself. One evening, I looked down, and my arms were visibly smaller. My shirts didn't fit the same. I didn't feel like me. The next morning, I grabbed my 15s, set a 12-minute timer, and did 21s. My arms lit up like firecrackers, not just from blood flow, but from hope. I wasn't broken. I was just unchallenged. That day, I promised myself I would never let busy steal my identity again. The father's set. One of my clients, Mark, 49, father of 4, texted me after trying 21s. I did 3 rounds in the living room. While the kids watched cartoons, my 6-year-old said, "Daddy, your arms are huge." That was worth more than any gym PR I've ever hit. 21s don't just build arms. They build presence. What to expect if you dare. After just 3 sets, you'll feel a tightness that rivals any pump you've had. You'll question why you ever lifted heavy in the first place. And if you commit for 6 weeks, you'll see measurable growth, even with light weight. But more than that, you'll fall in love with training again. You'll stop chasing numbers and start chasing connection. Final words for this chapter. Here's the truth. You don't need to be young to have great arms. You don't need heavy weights. You don't need fancy equipment. You need structure, intention, repetition, connection. And if you're a man over 40 who wants his arms back, and more importantly, his confidence back, then 21s might be your missing link. So tomorrow morning, before the world pulls you in 1,000 directions, pick up those dumbbells and reclaim your strength, one set at a time. The Bicep Rebuild Blueprint, a smarter way forward after 40. If you've made it this far, it's not just because you want bigger arms. It's because you want your power back. And power, real power, comes from ownership. Ownership of your body. Ownership of your discipline. Ownership of the small daily choices that compound into transformation. In the last 3 chapters, we talked about the how. Hammer curls for foundational thickness and joint safety. Single arm curls to regain balance, control, and mind-muscle connection. 21s to extract more with less, maximizing time under tension. Now it's time for the when, the how often, and how everything fits together. This is your blueprint. The weekly framework, 40 plus approved. No fluff, no overwhelm, just structure. Day 1, pull day, back plus biceps. Hammer curls, 4x10, slow tempo. Bent over rows. Chin UPS or inverted rows. Single arm curls, 3x12. Farmer carries, 3 rounds. Day 2, recovery. Mobility work, walking or swimming. Day 3, push day, chest plus triceps. Not bicep specific, but keeps you symmetrical. Day 4, biceps isolation plus core. Hammer curls, warm up. 21s, 3 brutal sets. Reverse or band curls, 3 sets. Planks plus hanging leg raises. Day 5, conditioning or full body. Kettlebell swings, push-ups, air squats. Keep it light, efficient. Day 6, optional pump day. Choose 2 bicep plus 2 tricep exercises. Go light, go slow, enjoy it. Day 7, rest. Full recovery, body and mind. Total time, 30 to 40 minutes per session. Sustainable, consistent, real. Nutrition principles. Because muscles aren't built in the gym alone. You don't feed your ego. You feed your recovery. That's what I tell every client over 40. Here's the truth. As you age, muscle retention is a battle, and nutrition is your armor. The 40+ muscle support formula. Protein, 1 g per pound of lean body weight. Carbs, use them, especially post-workout. Sweet potatoes, oats, berries. Fats, for hormones plus joint support. Olive oil, avocado, nuts. Hydration. If your elbows ache, try water before blaming the curls. Supplements I trust, not sponsored. Creatine, magnesium, collagen. You don't need to eat like a monk. You just need to eat like a man on a mission. The mental game, your true limiting factor. The older I get, the more I realize this truth. Muscle isn't the hard part. Mindset is. Most men don't give up because they're too weak. They give up because they're too distracted. You don't need better genetics. You need fewer excuses. Every time you train your arms, you're not just chasing the pump. You're practicing patience under tension, focus inside discomfort, discipline in a world full of shortcuts. You're proving to your kids, your team, your wife, that discipline doesn't have an expiration date. Real results, real fast. Client story, Kevin, 51. Kevin was stuck. Busy executive. Type 2 diabetic. Soft arms. Low energy. We didn't flip his life upside down. We gave him 3 rules. 1. Train biceps 2x/week, 20 minutes. 2. Eat 30 g protein within 30 minutes post-training. 3. Sleep like it mattered. 6 weeks later. Plus 1.3 inches on arms. Minus 2 inches on waist. Off 1 medication. And most importantly, he was smiling again in the mirror. He didn't need a six-pack. He needed a win. And Arms Day became that win. Final words. This isn't just about arms. This isn't a video about biceps. It's a reminder that you're not done. Not with your body. Not with your habits. Not with your story. Every hammer curl says, I'm still here. Every single arm curl says, I'm still in control. Every 21's workout screams, I refuse to fade quietly. This is your blueprint. Your system. Your second chapter. Now go build something you're proud of. 1 rep. 1 choice. 1 arm at a time. You don't need permission to be powerful. If you've made it this far, you already know something most people never do. Muscle isn't just built in your arms. It's built in your decisions. It's built in the moments no one sees. And above all, it's built in your refusal to quit. You're not here to be a fitfluencer. You're here because you understand something sacred. Strength is your birthright. Confidence is your responsibility. And aging is not your excuse. It's your advantage. While the world tells you to slow down, your discipline writes a different story. Let them have shortcuts. Let them filter their gains. Let them chase hacks. We take the long road, the earned road, the road that forges muscle, discipline, and dignity. So the next time you pick up a dumbbell, don't just chase the pump. Chase the promise you made to yourself. You said you'd show up. You said you'd rebuild. You said you'd finish what you started. Now it's time to do it. You're not too late. You're right on time.